Hey everyone, Levi and Phil here for another episode of Ask Prismic. So we've got 4 more questions from you guys that we're going to answer today. The first one is, can I have multiple beta features activated at any given time?
Yeah, this is a question we get quite a lot because, as we addressed in the last video, usually when you want to get a beta feature activated, you come through to one of us guys on the education support team and we will manually activate that for you. So multiple beta features is slightly different because our different beta features live on what we call clusters. They all live on different clusters. So for example, image optimization lives on a different cluster than integration fields. Would you like to explain maybe a bit more what clusters are in the first place?
Yeah. So clusters are basically different versions of Prismic. So our stable cluster is our production safe version of Prismic, no beta features, everything's safe and working as expected.
Yeah.
Then we have our experimental clusters, and each one is an isolated version of Prismic plus a beta feature. So we got one cluster which is Prismic plus GraphQL. We have another that's Prismic plus image optimization, and then more features for more beta feature, or more clusters for more beta features. And this way, we can keep all of our beta features isolated from one another so that we can test and verify that they're all working properly. And once we've confirmed that, then we can start rolling it out to everyone. But we keep them isolated so that we can make sure that it's working and do proper testing and everything for that.
Yeah.
So most of the time, you can't have more than one beta feature activated because they are isolated from one another specifically.
Yeah, but there's some exceptions to that. So
Yeah, sometimes there are more than one beta feature on a given cluster. So if your repository is on that cluster, you'll have access to all the beta features that are there. But for the most part, we keep them isolated from each other.
Yeah, that's correct. I believe one question we got was about previews using the GraphQL API.
Yeah, that's right. So with GraphQL, if you're using the GraphQL API for Prismic, the developer documentation explains, but basically to get previews working, all you have to do is be using the Apollo Link Prismic library. And this library is one of the ones that is talked about in the docs. And if you've got a client-side app, as long as you're using that library, the previews will work just fine as expected, normally just like the normal REST API.
Yeah.
It's a little bit trickier if you're doing a server-side application.
Yeah.
But really the only thing you need to do is pass the rec in from your server into that library, and it will work as well. So
yeah.
That's the trick to using doing previews with GraphQL.
Yeah, and we get asked that one quite a lot because we get a lot of questions about Gatsby and GraphQL and doing previews, but it's a bit different.
Yeah. That's a different topic altogether. Gatsby and static site generators are different just by virtue of what they are.
Yeah.
So with Gatsby specifically, there is a plugin that we recommend. It's the Gatsby Source Prismic GraphQL plugin. And that one has previews built into the plugin, and you can have everything working just by using that plugin.
Yeah, and we are working on other plugins when it comes to static site generators. For example, Nuxt, we are working on a plugin right now that will allow you to use static site generators like Netlify with ease where your previews will work, and we're looking into all the other static site generators to get that up and running.
Yeah. So another question we've got before is, can I get author information from the API?
Yeah, because you can't get it like directly natively from the API as a standard thing that's returned
right.
just in the document. So it takes a small bit of setting up.
Yeah, so a lot of times people have blogs, for example, and they want to showcase the author of that blog, but Prismic doesn't serve the author information from Prismic, from the Prismic users, from the Prismic authors. So what we recommend doing is setting up a custom type specifically for your authors and including everything you need there. That might be an image field for an avatar, a field for the author's name, and maybe another one for their bio, and whatever you need for the author. Then in your custom types, for example, your blog post type, you might add a content relationship field so that you can link to one of your authors that you've set up in your repository.
Yeah.
So we recommend doing this because it gives you more control over the information and the content that's associated with each author, and it makes that information available on in the API.
Yeah, that's correct. And then using your something like fetch links or GraphQL or even GraphQL in your project, you can then query the API to get those linked fields or the fields in that linked document, such as the image, the name, maybe a small bio, something like that,
yep.
and put that in your blog post.
Yeah, exactly. And that would make it so that you only have to make one query request from Prismic to get your blog post and the author information.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and finally, the last thing we wanted to talk about was... yeah, maybe that one.
It was bulk delete.
That's it. Yeah, bulk delete. Yeah, we get this question quite a lot coming through to the education team. And it's something that we discuss quite a lot here at Prismic because it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because if you do that wrong, you can make it quite difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah. So the quick answer to the question is no, bulk delete is not available currently with Prismic. But as Phil was saying, it's something that we talk about quite a bit and we're considering, and that it might be something that comes in the future. But for now, it's not available.
Yeah. That's all the questions that we have for today. If you have any other questions you want to ask about anything here at Prismic, or why we decide on product decisions and how to do certain things in Prismic, hit us up, let us know in the comments. Do you have anything else to add?
Nope, that's it. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, bye.